Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss horror. And today I bring you 5 book and 5 movie recommendations.
It's coffee time!
First of all, let me apologize because this video is getting uploaded one day later than usual. The reason being is that we spent the whole weekend and the Monday, which was a holiday here, renovating the bathroom. We have started the really big renovations. So basically my bathroom at the moment is just an empty room. So I have to use the showers at the gym now to shower every day. So I guess it's also a motivation to go to the gym every day. But anyways, today we are here to discuss horror books and horror movies, and I bring you some recommendations based on the topic home invasion. The Strangers Chapter 1 has just been released and I just watched it on Saturday night in the cinema, and that got me thinking about books and movies that have this trope of the home invasion. Now, when The Strangers came out in 2008, I really loved that movie. I think it's very simple. It's very, how to say, it's tapping into a very human fear that we all have and share. And I've talked about how human invasion is so horrific because it's something that can happen anywhere, anytime, to anybody. So I've talked about this in my channel before, and I think that's why these movies are so effective, at least to me, when it comes to the horror, because I feel like, you could have someone inside of your house at any time without you knowing. You're welcome from the nightmares today. Sometimes we're home alone in the middle of the night and we hear a noise that we cannot identify. We hear something that makes us feel unsafe, and that is always the fear of something coming into our house, because our homes, our apartments are supposed to be a safe space. So what happens when that is violated? What happens when someone is inside of your house, the place that it's supposed to be, where you feel the most protected and vulnerable? When we have had experiences like this before, when you have had someone break into your house, even if it's just for stealing when you were not in the house, or when you have had a very traumatic experience, we always get back to that feeling of being mortal. We are reminded of how weak we are, how, we could die anytime, anywhere, and it's quite scary. And I think if you've ever had somebody break into your house to steal something, even if you were not there, I think it's probably really hard to feel safe at home again. So even if you were not there, even if you were not attacked, physically attacked, you still have the fear of not being safe, of that safety being taken away from you. And we are here to explore books and movies that have that kind of theme of a home invasion, of somebody coming into your house. Now, it was really hard to pick because there are many books and movies that do have this trope, so I have tried my best to bring a wide variety when it comes to the type of book or the type of movie, so hopefully there's something here for everybody. But also in the future, I would love to make part 2 of this type of videos that I have been doing of recommending books and movies, because there are so many more that I can do part 2 and part 3 of all of these recommendations. Also, if there's any other topic or subgenre of horror, any trope that you want me to give you recommendations on, let me know in the comments down below. My Darling Husband by Kimberly Bell, and this is an adult mystery thriller. I thought we would start kind of with a mystery thriller for the people that are not ready for a bit more brutal, violent, and gory horror. This is a race against the clock thriller that will keep you at the edge of your seat. We follow Jade and Cam, and one of them is a very famous chef. So they have a lot of money, they are wealthy, they live in a beautiful home with their 2 kids, so you could say that their life is perfect. Their daughter is a musical genius, and Jade has always been a really good wife and mother, but all of that is going to be threatened when somebody invades their space and makes some interesting demands. The people that have intruded, the people that have went into their home, seem to know a lot more about the family than we anticipated at the very beginning. Especially, they seem to know a lot about Cam, the husband, and his business as a famous chef. The story alternates between the intrusion that is being told from different perspectives from the different characters and an interview that is performed afterwards. And we're going to learn that this family has many secrets. Night Watching by Tracy Sierra, and this is a mystery thriller horror, so we are upgrading a little bit in the horror level. A mother is forced to a breaking point when her and her kids are threatened by an intruder. We follow a mother that is home alone during a blizzard with her kids. She puts her son to sleep and she hears a sound, and normally you would think, you know, old houses have these squeaking noises everywhere, but she knows this specific noise really well. She knows it is the stairs and somebody is coming up. She sees the figure of a man at the end of the hallway, so she grabs her children and she runs to a very old room in the house that is kind of like a hidden room. They are hiding in this tiny room behind a wall while the intruder is trying to get them to get out. This is a very suffocating tale of a mother that doesn't know what to do. Is she supposed to try to find a weapon to fight back, or is she just supposed to stay hidden and quiet until they leave? On the one hand, this is a very tense and gripping story of survival, of a mother trying to do absolutely anything in her power to survive and keep the children safe. But it is also about a mother and her feelings when she is at a breaking point in her life. The Invasion by Brett McBean, and this is a horror novel. We follow Deborah. She is a romance novelist, so she writes romance novels, and she is throwing a Christmas party for her family and friends when, you know, they are kind of wrapping up things to go to sleep when a group of youngsters break into the house. They gather the whole family into the living room, and then the intruders, they grab weapons and different things and they start to film everything that's going on their smartphones. One of them says that they are waiting for their leader to arrive. Their leader is called Mr. Fear, and Fear you should. We are thoroughly introduced to the characters at the very beginning, and this is to ensure that the reader is going to have the chance to meet the characters, to, you know, bond with them a little bit, and then when you see them in such a vulnerable, horrible situation, you cannot stop yourself from feeling for them and rooting for them and wanting them to be able to escape. Now, keep in mind, this story is very violent, so this one is going to be very brutal, and it's going to depict a lot of things in detail. The biggest scary part of this book, it is to see the characters in this situation and the basic fear that we all have of a home invasion. Anybody Home by Michael J. Seidlinger, and this is a horror book that I read and thought that it was quite interesting, and that is because this book was told from such a different perspective. This is a book told from the perspective of the people that are intruding, so from the bad guy's perspective, if you may. We follow an invader that has experience with this. It is kind of like a business where people get hired to do this kind of home invasions, and you hear their thoughts and their thought process on everything they are trying to do to get into the house, you know, check the cameras, kind of put some surveillance in the family before they do the break-in, so you kind of see how they think and how they get into the places, how they keep the families hostage and everything that happens to the families. And it was quite cruel and quite raw in a lot of ways, and I could see why this book might not be for everybody, but I enjoyed it simply because it was such a different take on this trope, and it was very, very intense. You will see them, you know, trying to figure out which of the houses is more worth it for them to invade and why, and the areas, and it's just very interesting to see it from a flipped perspective, because the majority of movies or the majority of books that we have on home invasion, it's always told having the victims as, you know, the main characters, which might be also something that makes people not enjoy this book, because obviously you're not really rooting for the bad guys in this case, but they are your main character here. And let's finish with Endless Night by Richard Lehman, which is one of my favorites. And this is also the first book that I ever read by Richard Lehman and made me fall in love with him. But I have to also warn you, this is one of the most disturbing books I have ever read. So I don't know what that says about me, but I wanted to recommend this one because from the very beginning, this is a book that it gets really intense, and it does start with a home invasion. There's a content warning here for everything, including SA, just for you to know. Imagine this, you're having a sleepover with your friends when somebody comes into the house and you hear a noise, you try to see what's going on, and you realize that somebody has killed your friends, you're the only one alive, and you have to make it out of the house. That happens in the very first chapter, so it's not really a spoiler, and we follow the intruder as well as the victim throughout the whole book. So we follow Jody, who is a 16-year-old that has had to escape from this home invasion, and we also follow the intruder, as I say, but the whole book is not based on that house. That's just like the beginning of the book, and then we just follow the characters through many other settings, so it doesn't get boring. It's not just all based in one house. So basically this home invasion incident turns into a massacre and a kind of run for survival, and you will also get to know the killer slash killers and a little bit more about their background and how we got here. At points this book was quite disgusting. It reminded me of that feeling of sweat and bile and disgust from Texas Chainsaw Massacre at times. It's just nasty at times, and I'm not just talking about the killing part. The killers, the way they are described, the way that they are, is kind of nasty. But honestly, I really love this book. It's time to talk about 5 horror movies that have home invasion as a trope. Now, for the books, I did try to organize them from less to more disturbing. When it comes to the movies, I have just organized them by year. So we will start with the oldest one I have on the list to the newest one. The first movie, I know it's also not something for everybody. It's a movie that is an Austrian movie that got a remake, and that is Funny Games. The remake, it's just something the director wanted. The remake is made by the same director, and it's kind of like a shot-by-shot remake of his movie because he wanted to have the movie in English for, you know, to be able to reach more audiences, because he felt that because his movie, when it came out, it was in German, that a lot of people missed out on it and it didn't get to the right audiences that he intended. So that is why he decided to remake the movie, and it's like a shot-by-shot film. But I would still encourage you to check the original, the first one he did, because I'm always a big fan of checking the original first. A family of 3 arrive at a beautiful lake house to spend some time together when 2 men invade their peace, and they take the family hostage and they kind of humiliate them and harm them. One of the best things about Funny Games is that it is a movie that is very meta, and it does break the fourth wall, which is something that I know is not for everybody. But the thing is, in this particular movie, that allowed audiences to kind of participate in a way and feel really uncomfortable because of the nature of the film. And you are participating, but you're also not able to stop it. You're not able to stop what's going on. You can't do anything about it. We watch a nice middle-class family being psychologically terrorized, and in a sense, we are enduring it too. It's not an easy watch, and there doesn't seem to be an ounce of mercy coming from script or the camera. It's a disturbing thriller that it is smart, compelling, but also brutally painful and sometimes emotionally unbearable. And now that you know what you're getting yourself into, you can decide if you want to watch it or not. But I have to appreciate how raw and how bold this movie was when it came out, and I think, you know, he's a great director as well. So if you don't mind the nature of this movie, I would recommend you to give it a shot. You're next. We have Abby and Paul that invite their family to a small cabin in order to celebrate their anniversary. The party turns into a nightmare when they are attacked by masked killers. This movie felt like somebody was really in love with the slasher subgenre of horror, but they were a little bit tired of all the cliches that we always got in this type of films. And I feel like this was, at the time when it came out, a modern slasher and something that I really appreciated because they did certain things differently. Even though the setting is familiar to what we know, the origin of the danger is familiar to things we know, but they gave it a spin and I really enjoyed this one. The story manages to keep up the tension not only by making you feel trapped and isolated, but also by keeping you guessing as to whether or not you can actually trust the characters. It's got some gory kills, funny moments, plus we have a strong female lead that did a great job. Our main character in this movie, she was such a breath of fresh air because the female characters that we a lot of times get in slasher movies make the wrong decisions all the time. They don't feel like they're strong enough, or sometimes not until the very end where you have a final girl. And this particular character felt very different, and it felt like she was making decisions that you would not expect a slasher character to make. And she definitely is one of the reasons why I really enjoy this film. Incident in a Ghostland, and for this one, I do recommend to check content warnings. If you have read the book Dollhouse by John Hunt, you can get an idea of what this movie is going to bring you. A mother and her daughters are in a house when an intruder comes and attacks them. Now, years later, one of the daughters that survived the attack goes back to the house to kind of have peace on what happened. And when she gets to the house, she's going to feel like an eerie presence in there. And we're going to learn a lot about what happened back in the day and what our main character has been going through. Leaving the violence aside for this movie that it does have, and it's quite disturbing, I do feel like we have here a good storyline plus a really good plot twist. Of course, if you've already seen the movie once and you go back and rewatch it, you're going to see a lot of little clues that are pointing you to that reveal, but I feel like the majority of people that watch this for the very first time are not going to figure out the twist. The director did a wonderful job, and the last half of the film will make you feel like you're holding your breath throughout. The performances of Emilia Jones as well as Taylor Hickson were very good. So if you're ready for this journey, give it a watch. I think it's a wonderful movie, but obviously, again, it does deal with very heavy topics. Us by Jordan Peele, and this has been so far my favorite Jordan Peele movie. I watched this in the cinema when it came out. I remember I went by myself after work one day because I just couldn't wait to watch it, and I loved every single piece of this movie. It's perfection, and I absolutely recommend you guys to watch it if you haven't yet. Adelaide Wilson and her family are attacked by mysterious figures dressed in red. Upon closer inspection, the Wilsons realize that the intruders are exact lookalikes of them. When you're watching a Jordan Peele movie, you're going to see a lot of references to other horror movies. In this particular movie, you can see references, for example, to The Shining. So Jordan Peele is always paying homage to other horror movies that he really enjoyed. Another thing you need to know about Jordan Peele's movies is the more you watch them, the more you are rewarded with things that you didn't catch the first time around. And this movie was a really interesting challenge for the main actors as well, the main family that we follow, because they had to play themselves like this loving family that are on holidays, plus they had to play their doppelgangers, which are weird, dangerous, bizarre, and have this kind of weird smirk in their faces. So having to play against yourself in a way must have been a very challenging experience as an actor. This delightful, deranged home invasion family horror film works because Peele not only knows how to tell his story, but he also assembled an incredible cast to play two roles. Peele wants us to talk, and he's given audiences the material to think, to feel our way through some of the darker sides of the human condition and the American experience. And last but not least, we have The Rental. This is a movie that, it kind of surprised me. I was expecting this movie to be very cliche and very straightforward. And even though in some ways it was, I felt like I was really engaged with it and they did a really good job with the tension. We follow two couples that rent a home by the seaside and they hope to, have a great weekend getaway together. The two couples celebrate, have some alcohol, go into the hot tub and just have a good time. But then at some point, things start to happen that make them worry that someone might be coming for them. The director said that the idea for this movie came when he felt a little bit of discomfort about the idea of Airbnbs because these are, the property of someone and you never know if there's going to be someone that has a key that might go in. Like, it's this feeling of feeling unsafe because you are sleeping in someone's house and anything is possible. You are not safe, and that is also a reason why I myself don't like to sleep at Airbnbs. I find the idea also very uncomfortable, and I much rather go to a proper, regular, well-known hotel. Also, I've seen too many movies, read too many books, and I'm not taking risks, you guys. The first hour might be a very slow burn for a lot of people, but I found the characters engaging and the tech elements are top-notch, and I love how they add the tension without resorting to cheap tricks. The plot mechanism might be kind of simple or, straightforward, but I really enjoyed this movie because even though there is like an outside threat, the main characters are busier discussing about their issues with each other, their secrets, betrayals, and they're a lot more focused on their own personal drama than the fact that they are in danger. So this is a solid movie that goes from kind of like a drama to a nerve-wracking slasher. And there you have it, you guys. Those were my 5 book and 5 movie recommendations of horror that is based on the trope of home invasions. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you enjoy this type of books and movies, or if you don't like the topic of home invasion because it just feels too close to home. Also, if you have any other recommendations that fit this trope, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!